They say every man has a breaking point. Mine wasn't a moment of weakness. It was the devil himself standing in front of me, offering me everything I ever wanted. I was a nobody, just another Sicilian man trying to claw his way out of poverty, trapped in a world where men like me didn't rise. We just survived. But survival wasn't enough anymore. Not after what happened that night. My crew was gone. 6 men dead because of me. A botched job. A warehouse raid that went to hell in minutes. Their screams still haunt me, but not as much as the look on my boss's face when I came back empty-handed. He didn't have to say much. The message was clear. I owed him everything, or my days were numbered. I spent that evening walking through the cobbled streets of Sicily, the weight of failure pressing on my chest. Every corner felt darker, every whisper louder. The town I had known all my life suddenly felt foreign, as if the shadows themselves were mocking me. And then I saw it, the old church at the edge of town. Abandoned for years, its doors hung ajar, swaying in the wind like they were inviting me in. I don't know why I stepped inside. Maybe I was looking for salvation. Maybe I just wanted to feel something other than fear. What I found wasn't salvation. It was him. He stood in the center of the church, cloaked in shadows that seemed to move on their own. His voice was like smoke, curling around my thoughts and suffocating my doubt. You've lost everything, haven't you, Enzo Ricci? But what if I could give it all back? And more? I should have run. I should have screamed. But instead, I listened. He spoke of power, wealth, respect, everything I had craved since I was old enough to know the taste of envy. All he wanted was a signature, written in blood, on a parchment that seemed to shimmer like it was alive. This isn't real, I whispered, even as my hand reached for the quill. He laughed, low and hollow. It's as real as your ambition, Enzo. The question is, do you have the courage to claim it? And I did. God help me, I did. The moment the quill touched the parchment, the world around me shifted. The air grew heavier, the shadows deeper. I felt a chill run through my veins, like ice and fire at the same time. It is done, he said, his voice echoing as he disappeared into the darkness. At first, it seemed like I had won. My debts were erased, my enemies silenced, and the respect I had always dreamed of was finally mine. But it didn't take long for the whispers to start. The dreams, the feeling that I was being watched, even when I was alone. And then came the first sign. A single rose, wilting on my windowsill, burst into flames without warning. The ashes formed a shape, a hand reaching out, as if it wanted to drag me somewhere I didn't want to go. That's when I realized the truth. You can't make a deal with the devil and expect to come out clean. They say every man has a breaking point. I crossed mine the moment I signed that contract, and now the devil is waiting to collect. The ash handprint on the windowsill was only the beginning. It wasn't just an omen, it was a warning. At first I told myself it was my imagination, a trick of the light, or my own guilt playing games with me. But the signs wouldn't stop. Everywhere I turned, something felt wrong. Shadows moved where they shouldn't. Voices whispered my name when no one was there, and the air around me grew colder with every passing day. The success I had craved came fast, too fast. My rivals either disappeared or fell in line, and my boss, a man who once looked at me like dirt beneath his shoes, treated me with a respect that bordered on fear. Money flowed in, power settled on my shoulders, and the streets of Sicily whispered my name now. But none of it felt like mine. It felt borrowed. And then the deaths started. It began with Marco, my closest friend, and the only man who had survived that botched heist with me. We were sitting at a table, laughing over wine, when his eyes widened suddenly. He clutched his chest, gasping for air, and collapsed right there in front of me. No warning, no explanation. The doctor said it was his heart, but I knew better. The last thing Marco's lips formed before he died wasn't a prayer or my name. It was a scream, a silent, agonizing scream, as if he saw something no one else could. Then there was Sophia, sweet Sophia, my sister. She had nothing to do with my world, but the curse didn't care. She was walking home one evening when the street lamps flickered and went out. Witnesses said they heard her scream, But when they found her body, there wasn't a mark on her, just a look of terror frozen on her face. I started to unravel. The nights grew longer, the silence louder. The dreams came in waves, visions of fire, chains, and an endless void where a voice called my name over and over again. In desperation, I sought answers. I went to Father Giulio, the town's oldest priest, known for his knowledge of the occult. He listened to my story, his face growing paler with every word. When I finished, he crossed himself and whispered, "You've made a pact with the demon, Enzo, and demons don't forgive." He handed me a worn leather-bound book filled with prayers and symbols I didn't understand. "This may help you delay the curse, but breaking the contract? That's almost impossible." "Almost?" I asked, clinging to the word like a drowning man. He hesitated. "There's a way, but it requires something you may not be willing to give." The priest wouldn't explain further, only urging me to stay away from the gold coin I still carried. But how could I? It was the proof of my deal, and as much as I hated it, I couldn't let it go. That night, I sat alone in my study, the coin resting on the table before me. I stared at it for hours, hoping to understand its power, hoping for some kind of answer. But the only thing I found was fear. The shadows in the room grew darker, stretching toward me like claws. The air turned bitterly cold, and a voice, deep and hollow, echoed around me. "You can't escape me, Enzo. The time is coming." The candlelight flickered, and for a brief moment, I saw his figure in the corner of the room, watching me with eyes like burning coals. I slammed the book shut and prayed, for the first time in years, but I knew the truth. The curse wasn't just coming for me. It was already here. And it wouldn't stop until it had claimed everything I had left. The night I signed the contract, I thought I was claiming my future. But now, as the world crumbled around me, I realized I had only sealed my own death. The curse had taken everything. Marco, Sofia, my peace. The people I cared about were gone, and it didn't matter how many prayers I whispered, how many promises I made. The devil's claim was absolute. I could feel it closing in, like a cold hand wrapping around my throat. The gold coin, my only connection to the deal, burned in my pocket. It was the only thing left that was truly mine, the only thing I couldn't let go. Father Giulio had warned me. He had said there was a way to break the contract, but at what cost? I didn't know. But it was the only option I had left. I had nothing to lose. I returned to the church, the one place where I first met him. The walls felt alive with something dark, something ancient. The air reeked of death. In the center of the church he stood. His eyes burned into mine with that familiar, malevolent glow. "You came, Enzo. I knew you would." I clutched the coin tightly, the cold metal biting into my skin. My voice trembled as I spoke, the desperation evident. "Tell me how to end this. Tell me how to break the contract." He smiled, a wicked, knowing smile. "You already know the price, Enzo. The only way to end it is to give me what I want, your soul." For a moment, I considered running. I could have escaped. I could have abandoned everything, but there was no point. The damage had already been done. My family was gone. My life was forfeit. So I made the choice. I dropped the coin at his feet. "Take it. Take everything." The world around me seemed to collapse in on itself. The church darkened. The air thickened with the scent of burning flesh. I felt myself slipping away, my body weakening. But in that moment, I felt peace. But then, the voice returned. It wasn't his anymore. It was softer, more comforting. "You can't escape fate, Enzo. But sometimes, the price isn't what you think." I opened my eyes to see Father Giulio standing over me, his hands glowing with a strange light. He had done it. He had saved me, at a cost I didn't fully understand. The last thing I saw before darkness overtook me was the devil, his face twisted in fury as Father Giulio whispered the final words. "No one owns a soul forever, not even him." And then nothing.